Dude, we really brought out the fire department and did 20K in sales. This was a pretty good weekend. This past Saturday, we brought out 200 to 400 people to our bike shop's grand opening. This is our new location. Now, I don't know exactly how many people came out because I was busy selling my ass off, but we did over $20,000 in sales in a single day, and I personally sold 3 bikes for about $5,000. For you guys that don't know, I do marketing for a small bike shop. For all intents and purposes, we're still a new company. We have our first location that's been open for about a year, but it's in a really small community and we don't really have a big customer base yet. So this last weekend, we decided to open up a new location in a different city, and here's what happened. The grand opening was a huge success. We had everybody from the fire department to police officers coming out. We had at one point people parked around the block just waiting to get in for some giveaways that we were doing. I think we also raised 4 figures for some local teams that mountain bike at local high schools. Dude, it was just a big day for the company and a huge day for the brand. And for you guys out there that would like to do this for your company, I'm going to talk about everything that I did for the 30 days leading up into this grand opening, how we got $20,000 in sales in a day, how we brought out hundreds of people and kept them there, purchasing things, really engaging with our brand. I'm going to talk about all of that and even some of the things that I would do better if I could do it over again. And let me just say, this is not rocket science. If I can do it with a neckbeard and a Smurf hat, you guys can do this too. Now, I didn't even start promoting the grand opening until we were 29 days out, just under a month. As far as our social media strategy went, I think I posted 11 times, 7 of which roughly were images, and then the other 3 or 4 were reels. And what these posts were about is basically just reminding people of the date, reminding people of the time, and then talking about the individual giveaways that we were going to do, or maybe some of the events at that grand opening. So what I was doing is taking this one event and just chopping up these tiny news pieces so that I could continually remind people basically every few days throughout this month leading up into it. Now, our bike shop is on 6 social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. As far as the videos were concerned, I posted those on all of those platforms. As far as the images were concerned, I just posted them on the 4 image platforms, basically everything except for YouTube and TikTok. So we got the same post out on every platform, which might seem redundant, but again, I wanted to just lock this into people's brains. It's like, yo, make sure that you remember this date, make sure that you remember there are some big giveaways and some fun games that we're gonna be doing. As far as the more specific social media strategies, there were 2 things that we did that I think were really helpful. One of which is that we did the follow for follow method on Instagram to people that lived near the new shop that we were opening. Basically, I would target people in that city or around it that rode bikes, and I would follow them. Because even if they're not gonna follow us back, they're at least gonna be pinged now on their phone that we followed them. They'll click on our profile and they'll see, oh, they've got a grand opening. Here's some of the bikes that they're giving away. Here's some of the things that they're doing. It kind of forces those people in that local area to see us. Now, on top of that, one thing that's important to remember is that Twitter has strong integration with Google. So one thing that I did is I try to make sure that at least every 3rd tweet is about the grand opening. And the reason for that is when people would Google our business during this time period, they'd be forced to see at least one of the tweets that would pop up on Google saying, hey, these guys have a grand opening on this date. Here's what they're giving away. And then the next thing that I did once we were only about 7 days away from the actual grand opening is my first ever email marketing campaign. And just to be truthful, I was really nervous about this. Probably took me about 5 or 6 hours to make my first email because I didn't know what I was doing. But what I did is I went into our company's point of sale system, got all of our customer emails from our first 9 months in business, which was only about 115 emails. And then I just sent out an email to those 115 people, basically saying, hey, here's our grand opening, here's the time, here are the giveaways, here's what we're doing. We'd love to have you here. Obviously, there's a little bit more to it than that, but it really wasn't that hard. It took me about 6 hours time. And within about 3 days of sending out that email, we had a 51% open rate, which if you know anything about email marketing, that's pretty nice. And then the last sort of digital marketing strategy that we used was actually social media ads. And we waited and did this about 72 hours away from the actual grand opening as sort of a last minute effort. And what we did is we only had about a $200 budget. We put about 80 on Facebook, probably about 125 on Instagram. And we just basically boosted posts that we already had talking about the giveaways and talking about the event. We just boosted those posts within about a 20-mile to 30-mile radius of that new store. It was a way to just kind of last moment build some last hype, maybe push people over the edge if they didn't have anything going on Saturday to say, hey, get out here and come to the shop. And I know I've already touched on it, but giveaways were honestly one of the biggest keys in this equation. Giveaways were one of the things that really helped us to generate hype and actually get people to the shop that day. So what we did is we reached out to a bunch of our companies that we buy bikes and stuff from. We reached out to a bunch of our sales reps, and a lot of these sales reps are actually given leeway to give away product or to give away things if it'll help generate their brand some publicity. So what we did is we talked to a bunch of our sales reps, a bunch of these different companies, and said, hey, we'll promote you on the actual day of the giveaway, we'll promote you afterwards, and we'll promote you beforehand so that people are talking about your brand, they're looking at your bike, they're talking about you guys. And we actually got one brand to give us a mountain bike, another to give us a fat tire e-bike, another to give us an electric scooter, and then 2 helmets for giveaways also. So we had some really big giveaways just from our suppliers for free. And then on top of that, my boss, he kind of threw in some giveaways that we ended up doing on kind of like a little Wheel of Fortune type deal that was actually used, that money was used to generate money for local teams. So he was giving away t-shirts and stuff on this wheel that were really like pretty big items like hydro flasks and stuff like that. But people only had to spend $10 to spin this wheel and all that money would just go to the team. So my boss was really giving away a lot of free inventory too. So those giveaways, man, were one of the biggest ways that we were able to get people out. We just found some stuff that our audience is interested in. We got a good diverse array of things. And then we created a Google form where people could come and they could apply for it all in one place. And that was one of the biggest ways that we got people out. So like I mentioned earlier, we had 11 social media posts leading up into that grand opening day. Now, out of those 11 social media posts, I want to say that probably 6 or 7 of those were talking about the different products that we're going to be giving away and repeatedly just giving people a link or reminding people to click the link in our bio, depending on the platform, to actually apply for those giveaways. Because we knew, once somebody's really invested and they want this $3,000 mountain bike, they want this $1,600 e-bike and they apply for it, they're definitely going to show up. That's when you've got them hooked and they're definitely coming. And to really clarify that further, that was actually one of the stipulations that we had for all of our giveaways is, look, you've got to show up between these times when we announce the giveaways if you want a chance at winning them. If we call your name and you're not there, you're not winning the item. And that was a way of really protecting ourselves and making sure that we actually had people show up and not just use us. And I might as well just throw these small hacks in for you as well. We did have the event catered. Keeping people snacking and eating is a way to keep them around, keep them eating and keep inundating them with your brand or familiarizing them. On top of that, I went live that morning. That was just a way to remind people, oh, hey, this bike shop is opening a new location. And then lastly, we basically reminded the public, hey, we've got bikes outside all day. You can come test ride anything you'd like for free. You can take it around the block and have some fun with it. And that's good for us because maybe they fall in love with a bike and they purchase it. It's good for the community because, you can test ride a $7,000 Italian mountain bike for free. So even though none of this is probably like mind-blowing information or like some sort of new advice that you've never heard before, that's really what worked for us, dude. We did $20,000 in sales that day, which is pretty big for our company, which is still a very new company. I think we moved probably like 5 or 6 bikes that day and a bunch of other inventory. It was a really big day too to get a lot of people out and really familiarize them with our location and our company, what we do, what we're about, who we are. So even though all of this is a pretty big win for a company in more rural Utah, there are some things that I would do differently. First of which is trying to build this email list beforehand. Email marketing is a great way to talk to the customers that you already have, to basically re-advertise or deepen your relationship with existing customers. So the fact that we dug through 9 months of customer records and we only had 115 emails that we could use was pretty unacceptable to me. So I talked to my boss and my coworkers about, we need to make sure that we're really getting as many people on the email list as possible. This is a great way that we can freely advertise to people who've already spent money with us. Another thing is the giveaways. I would have gone deeper in the giveaways if I could have. We were dealing with a little bit of a time crunch, and again, we're a new company, so we've got a lot going on. But a lot of these companies, the guys that gave us the mountain bike wanted to make sure that they were the only mountain bike company there. So now we couldn't do giveaways from other mountain bike companies. The guys that gave us the e-bike wanted to make sure that they were the only e-bike company being represented. It makes sense, but I do think that maybe we could have gone deeper with the giveaways and got even more stuff to give away if we would have had more time to contact our reps. And then one way that I really messed up as a marketer was with the link situation for the giveaways. We had a bunch of different links floating around, and I really should have consolidated it and made it simpler from the beginning. The mountain biking company that I mentioned earlier, they wanted to do their giveaway through their own funnel on their website. The rest of the giveaways, they just gave to us and said, you figure it out. So I had to make a separate funnel for the rest of the stuff from the mountain bike. So for a while, there was a point where I had the mountain bike's website and I had to use a link shortener to kind of shorten that URL to make it easy for people to retype. And then on top of that, I've got this link over here to our funnel, right? So we've got people clicking on different links. What I eventually did was added them to a link tree. So it was one link tree that they could click the link and then it would come up with the different giveaways kind of one under the other. That's something I should have done earlier. And I actually had some guy telling me too that he tried to click on the mountain bike link and it wasn't working for him, which we went and tried it together and it did work. But he had troubles, I think, with maybe like the case sensitivity. So that's one thing as marketers is a lot of times we're more tech kind of savvy than the average person, right? You've got to make sure that you kind of foolproof your systems or make it really simple and watered down so that the average 50-year-old with very little kind of tech smart can apply to your giveaway or can click on your links. And that's where I messed up. So I would have definitely gone with the link tree earlier and simplified the process as much as possible, as soon as possible. And then the last thing that I really would have done different is adding more attractions throughout the day. So we had a kind of like wheel of fortune that I talked about, and that was going all day. And we have a really sweet shop, and we had a lot of employees that were there to talk to people. That was going all day. The actual giveaways, though, that was only a 2-hour block. So for the rest of the day, we've got all these people coming in the building, and all we've really got is like food, a wheel that they can spin, and people that they can talk to. If I had this to do over again, I think I would have added more attractions, because one of the worst things that I think can happen is people walk in and walk out because they're bored, right? You want to familiarize them with your company and have them just walk out blown away. So I think we left a good impression, but I think we could have kept people in the building longer, maybe spending more money and having a greater time if we would have come up with a couple more games or things for them to do. So that's definitely an area that I could do better next time, and I would recommend you do better if you're kind of planning an event like this.